Hello, everyone. Hope you're doing well today. I am Elizabeth Corey, and I'm the founder of beatingtrauma.com. And I am here for our weekly live stream discussing how trauma is impacting our lives and what kind of things we can do to help ourselves out. Number one focus here on this live stream is awareness. So bringing awareness to what kind of unconscious thoughts we are having that are making it difficult to live our best life, really. So that's what the focus is today. Today, we're going to be talking about financial success in particular. This is one of my favorite topics because honestly, it is such an important topic for us and establishing an independent life for ourselves away from abuse, away from trauma. Because of that, it can also be one of the things that comes with the most blocks in our system, the most contracts, the most belief systems that don't work for us. Because the truth is the people who have controlled, oppressed, traumatized us, all of the things, know that if we have financial independence, we will get away from them. Like it's not a guarantee, but it's about as close as it gets in this kind of work that we're doing here. So they're quite terrified of our financial independence, and they will put a lot of belief systems and contracts in place to keep us from achieving that goal. And so I want to talk about some of that today. And I would love to hear your experiences with that, what kinds of belief systems you run into around that in your own system as we continue this conversation. It's such an important topic. I'll start off just with a little bit of this kind of background information. I don't know about you guys, but I have for a long time felt like I was really struggling to find a way to feel like financially comfortable in my life. It always seemed like every time I almost got there, then something happened and I wasn't there anymore. And it felt a bit like I was being victimized by money. And there's been a couple of really good books written about this concept that our relationship with money does often look a little bit like our relationship with our abusers, which can mean that we have a really bad relationship with money after we come. Sorry, it looked like it disconnected there for a second. Hopefully we are back and good. So we really want to look at from a money perspective, like what it is that those belief systems are under the surface that may be stopping us from allowing ourselves to really have what it is that we want and need in our lives financially. And so I want to talk a little bit about what some of those things are here. But first, let's talk about the next thing I want to talk about here is that, sometimes these belief systems are, they are often stored in the unconscious. While sometimes we can know about them, sometimes we can be consciously aware that they are there. A lot of times we actually aren't. We aren't aware that we even feel that way. We may even be saying to ourselves, yeah, I think I deserve, financial success. I mean, on the surface, like in the frontal, I feel like, yeah, that's something I should have. Definitely. And, but underneath the surface, there can be a lot going on that's associated with our trauma, beliefs and contracts we have no idea are there. And this is really where I want to focus our attention today. And I'm going to give you some examples of some beliefs and contracts that really can get in our way, and particularly as we start to heal ourselves. Because I found personally, and this is the first one I want to talk about today, I found personally that I didn't have too many issues with being financially successful as long as I was directly tied to my family or I was taking care of people, as long as it wasn't about me and it wasn't my personal journey. If it was about other people, if it was about supporting the family, if it was about supporting somebody else, I didn't have as many issues. But as soon as I started stepping into my real strength, as soon as I started really embracing, who I was and what I wanted and how I wanted to live my life, and in particular, I started going no contact with some of the people from my family, things did start to become a lot more challenging. And what I realized in my system was that I actually did, in fact, have a contract that said you have to remain tied in and even dependent on the family in order to find financial success in your life. Like, your financial success was hinged on your connection to family or connection to someone. In some cases, the contract may be about making sure that you have a spouse that is either taking care of you or you're taking care of them. That may be tied in with your ability to be financially successful. But I will say that this is especially true for women, that we tend to have things, beliefs and stuff in our system that says that if you are an independent woman who lives on your own and isn't dependent on family, you're going to find that you are up against a lot of really challenging belief systems in your unconscious, for the most part, about whether or not you're allowed to be financially successful in that place. And this is something we all need to be paying very close attention to, because again, financial success is what brings independence, and independence is what brings trauma healing, and patterns stop, like trauma patterns stop because of financial independence. So this is a big thing for us, and we need to put a lot of focus on this topic. So again, the first belief system and contract. So there's a contract under there, which means the karma kid is active on this one. The karma kid is saying, you need to abide by this contract, is that we must remain dependent upon the family or somebody who represents the family, like a spouse. So this one will stop us in our tracks from finding our true financial independence. The next one is, we do not deserve financial success. So this is coming from that deep shame-based place of the karma kid, saying we're not allowed to have that. And many times that comes up as this need to struggle. It's like we have to be struggling all the time. Many times we will have gotten this message from our family of origin, as they will say, to be human means you struggle. We've struggled, so you should struggle. Everybody struggles. It's selfish to think that you can possibly not struggle. Here's another way it might show up. People like us always struggle. And it's very kind of all over the place. You're like, what does that mean? People like us, like what's like us? There's a lot of things that are insinuated in like us. It mean people who are going through trauma. It might be people that are generationally related to us. It can mean a lot of things, but it oftentimes makes us feel like we're not as good as others, right? It's like people like us struggle. Other people don't struggle, but we do. That message can really get stuck in the system and make it very difficult for us to find financial success in the world, because underneath we've got this karma kid going, you can't have it. You're not allowed to have it. People like us don't have it. People like us struggle. People like us don't get financial independence. We don't get success like other people do. These can be a lot of the messages that we hear in our family of origin that stop us in our tracks when we start to dream, when we start to explore, when we're like, oh, wouldn't it be great? Wouldn't it be great to do this, or to, create this, or figure out a way to make an income doing what I love? A lot of times that gets shut down really fast because this message comes in from the karma kid, or comes in from the controller and says, too risky, not allowed. This is too dangerous. Don't go there. Right? And oftentimes shuts it down before we even really get a sense of what it is. It's like it just starts to come up and it's already shut down, right? That's our defenders in action. That's the unconscious saying, don't even think about it. Don't even dream it. Don't even attempt it. It will fail. And this is one of the primary reasons behind that. I like to tell people, like my clients, when we're talking about like what it is they're dreaming of, I often say, like, what is the thing that you think of? And before you can even really grab hold of it, you feel it just no way, like that will never happen. You can hear it very loud in your head saying, that's ridiculous. Yeah, that's probably your thing. But a lot of times in like traumatizing, abusive families, they attack the very thing that you are in fact meant to do. They attack your gift. And there gets to be in your system so much resistance to that gift because we keep hearing over and over and over again, not allowed, not okay, that's dumb, that's not, you can't make money at that. I mean, the list of things they say to us seems like it's endless, but in the end, it actually is your thing. The reason families of origin have a tendency to really push those ideas away is one is projection, and that is because many families do have similar gifts, but what happens is generation after generation after generation is kind of pushing that away and saying you're not allowed to do that, you can't do that, it's not okay, right? So a big part of the resistance we hear from families is in fact projection. But on the other side is families who are being abusive can't let someone build up confidence. And one of the best ways to let someone build up confidence is let them explore their gifts. So that has to be shut down, and it is. And oftentimes, the best way for us to find true financial independence and success in this world is actually to embrace our gift, right? It oftentimes doesn't seem like that. The controller is usually there to say, that's illogical. That'll never work. That'll never happen. Forget it. You can't do it, right? But that's because the controller is based on a very black and white way of thinking. So Janice saying, don't deserve unworthy messages. Yes. I would say that is probably one of the biggest things we hear in our systems when we start to allow ourselves to dream of the possibility of something different for ourselves, something like a life that we would really, truly enjoy, is we hear that message of, you're not worthy of that, right? And that goes way back when we were told that, nope, that's not the kind of thing that happens for us, or that's not the kind of thing that happens for you, right? Depending on what the message is, that's what got stuck in the system, right? So understanding that we may have a significant karma kid in there who's telling us, you can't have that, you're not worthy of that, you must struggle, you're selfish if you think you can do or have that. These are very powerful unconscious messages that stop us in our tracks so much of the time. The other one I want to discuss is this idea of visibility. But I also want to bring a caveat in with that concept, because the truth is visibility isn't always needed for us to express our gifts. But in some cases it is. And in some cases, it's just that we need to be visible in certain communities. And even that can feel really, really intimidating. If you grew up in an environment where you were constantly being kind of pushed back into like this sort of smallness, I guess we could say, when you tried to be bigger and be more alive and be more confident, and you were constantly being just kind of shoved back into your box, right, over and over again, you may have learned that stepping into any kind of visibility for yourself, either within a community or in general, was something that would invite backlash. Okay, so it was just absolutely unacceptable, maybe within your family of origin or within your community, to stand out, to really express yourself in any kind of open, large way where you really like stood out to the world. That was absolutely unacceptable. And if you grew up like that, you will unconsciously be expecting a pretty significant backlash if you allow yourself to be visible. Here's the thing. Some of these belief systems have an element of truth to them, and this one definitely does. Okay? So what I mean by that is it is a human nature. It's an ungrounded human nature, by the way, not a grounded one, to want to take somebody down when they reach certain heights. It's jealousy. It's our controllers. It's very ungrounded, but there's a lot of people in the world who see somebody doing something amazing and the jealousy kicks in because they want it and they start to try to tear that person down. Okay. So we don't want to try to convince our parts that won't happen. Like if we get visible, it is possible we'll experience some of that. The difference is that we need to teach ourselves that it doesn't matter. If somebody tries to tear us down as adults, we can now have the power to not allow that to impact us, to not spend time trying to convince this person that they're wrong about us, to not even engage with that person at all. The difference now is power. When you were a child and somebody tried to tear you down, they would usually succeed, especially if they were an adult, right? We didn't have the power to protect ourselves then. We didn't have the power to say, well, what you think of me doesn't matter. I mean, we were oftentimes reliant on the very people that were tearing us down, right? That's not the case anymore. If somebody doesn't like our attempts to really embrace a new life for ourselves in a way that's, maybe not considered okay by our family standards or by our community standards, these people aren't going to have the same power over us. We can still move forward. And we see this all the time with people who have had success, and there are people out there that, let's say that highly, highly visible people, they've had success. There are plenty of people out there saying, I don't like what you're doing. This is bad. This isn't good. This doesn't look like what I'm used to. We hear all of these things, lots of people trying to tear down people who have found success in this world. But the truth is I think one of the biggest characteristics of people who have found success and have found it in an ongoing way, right? Not just like a quick thing, but really sort of ongoing success. One of the biggest things we see with those people is they can allow those haters to be out there telling them how they're doing it wrong and this isn't good and they're this and they're bad and they're all the things, but they just keep going because these people don't have the power over them. They've processed through the feeling of being a child and being completely dependent on what people think. And they've come out the other side of that and recognize that actually what these people think doesn't have any power over them. Those are the people who have the long-term success, especially in a visible way. They've been able to cope with that in a more grounded way. There's plenty of people out there coping with that kind of thing in an ungrounded way. That's not what I'm talking about. Usually they will burn out and they will struggle to maintain that because it's just bringing on too much stuff for them that they're not addressing. But if you can maintain it despite the haters and you can really keep tapping into your power and recognizing how these people do not have it in this situation it's the recipe for ultimate success in life, in my opinion. But it's also, I think, one of the biggest plagues of being a human being today. One of the biggest plagues of humanity today is our desperate need to get approval from others. And guess what? It comes right out of childhood trauma every single time. Every single time. Our need for approval from others is based on the situation we grew up in, where it was life or death to get the people who were raising us to like us, right? We had to. We needed their approval. And most of the time we were facing some pretty conditional love scenarios where we knew that if we didn't do what they asked, we had the potential to lose incredibly valuable supports around our life. These were the people who were responsible for food, clothing, shelter. We had to get their approval. It was life or death to our system. The problem is when that keeps following us into our adult lives and we keep feeling this life or death need to get approval from others. It's not needed anymore, but we have to work through those feelings from childhood to stand in our own power in a really grounded way. So the last thing I want to talk about, and I talked about it a little bit earlier, which is how this plays out in our society on a different level for women than it does for men. Yes, we may have had it within our family. We may have had a situation in our family where people were like, you can never be dependent of the family. You always have to need the family. The family is a critical part of your life. If you step away from the family, you will never find success in this world. Yes, that stuff is there. And that can be there for men and women. But within society itself, there is a strong push for women to find their lives through dependency, financial dependency. Again, maybe that's on family, but maybe that's also on a partner. And it can be very difficult to convince ourselves, right, that we can have financial independence without that partner, without that family. It is not something that's encouraged almost anywhere at all. But I can say that for most women, if they're going to find partnerships that are truly like grounded and not repeating their patterns, they're going to do that through living their own independent lives first, because as long as there is a need on their part, which society does try to create, if I'm honest, as long as that need is there, we will struggle to be able to step out of abusive and traumatic patterns in relationships. So these are things we also really want to be working with. Let's see. I want to see what Jan is saying here. So this feels like this topic has very deep roots in childhood. So much control over creativity, normal childhood expression, always worried about loss of security as a child, shuts down your power and vitality. Never thought of these feelings as false, deep beliefs. I feel writing coming on. Yeah, I hope so. Yes. It's unfortunately because we live in a world that kind of pushes and promotes these beliefs, it's very hard to see them as wrong. I'll be honest, like many times because of the way we've lived in the world, and the way the world is currently sort of structured as far as the belief systems it's passing down, it's very, very easy to believe these things. And I will be honest, sometimes our push towards things like our purpose, our gifts, financial success are the very things that we hear all around us are irresponsible, illogical, not the right direction for us to go. That's going to be a failure. That's never going to work. Like we actually find most of these kind of beliefs show up only when we're actually heading in the best direction for us. So it's really, really difficult to pull ourselves out of it, especially living in this world that we live in today, where there is just so much coming at us about being responsible and logical and doing the thing that will make the most money and taking care of yourself and no risk is allowed, right? Like all of these beliefs we hear, they're not the way we actually need to be living. But yes, it's very, very rare to find people who will mirror back to you this new way of thinking. Honestly, it's one of those things where sometimes we even have to shut down the external stuff coming at us because it's actually not helpful. And I find that the common way of thinking today is not helpful for us to really embrace who we are, authentically speaking. Amanda's saying, today's world seems to have changed those narratives these days. So many people doing more of what they love. Yes, it is a growing, I don't want to call it a trend because it's not a trend. It's actually, but it is growing. It is growing. It's getting there. unfortunately, a lot of times when we've been through trauma, there's a lot of people in our space who are still living in a lot of fear. So it can be hard to find that validation when we need it around us. So we do have to be cautious that we don't let people convince us to go the logical way, or the way with no risk and that sort of thing. But yes, it is happening more and more. I think the internet certainly facilitates a lot of that, to be honest with you. And I think that will continue to happen, which I love. But we still have a lot of work to do here, right? Because this is our area. This is where we can start to really take our lives back and be truly authentic and be truly financially successful in ways that allow us to claim independence, which then allows us to be in much better partnerships should we choose to do that. So that's what I have for you today. Thank you all for being here, and thank you for your great comments, and I appreciate all of that. This is a tough topic because there's a lot of things stacked against us when it comes to financial success, but keep working on these unconscious beliefs and it will bring around some great things in your life as you let yourself work with it. Thank you all so much, and I will talk to you next Tuesday, same time, same place.